It's Chelsea.
It's Nina.
And you're in the Critics' Kingdom.
And we're back.
Hello, hello.
Deeper into the holiday.
Yes.
The holiday month. And this week we are going to review Disney's most recent Christmas-themed
Film.
Disney Channel original movie.
Yeah.
Good Luck, Charlie, It's Christmas!
Yes. It actually came out in 2011.
And it was a full 10-year... It was on the 10-year sort of anniversary of the release of 'Twas the Night.
Which was their...
Second.
Yeah. Which was their second, and then the last one that they had made before this one came out.
Yeah.
And it came out, like, literally to the day. 10 years later, like, because that came out in 2001. So, you know, there's, like, a little bit of a precedence, I think, for these Christmas DComs. Even though, as you guys will kind of see, there weren't that many.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's something that they decide to stick with, particularly.
Yeah.
Not in the way that they very much capitalized on sort of Halloween.
Yeah. Like, Halloween was clearly...
So that's interesting.
The linchpin that was chosen.
Yeah. Which makes sense, I guess, because it's non-denominational.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not a, like, religious...
Yeah.
Like, it's seen as more of a cultural thing at this point.
Yeah.
And Christmas is as well, to an extent, but I could also... You know, I could understand the argument where somebody's like, it's Christian.
It is Christian.
It's literally called Christmas. Like
please don't.
The Christ is in there.
Yeah. Good old saviors.
Oh.
But yeah, so for this one, it was both of our first time watching it.
Yes, and you know, I think even we watched the pilot for the first time as well, because it started as a show in 2010, so we were both like our senior year of high school, so we weren't really keeping up with Disney Channel by this point.
I was not anywhere near Disney anything. Yeah. I was doing other things with myself.
Yeah. No,
I was too grown for that.
Yeah, we were like 17. Like, it's like we weren't, you know, watching.
I'm not watching the show about
this
a baby
show.
On
so we
Disney
were
Channel.
watching it for the first, we watched the pilot, and then, you know, to have an idea, and then we got into it.
And yeah, and then we got into the DCOM.
Yeah. So for the review, the recap. Good Luck Charlie, if you've never seen it, is based on the show Good Luck Charlie. That the whole premise is that Teddy Duncan, who is like she's not even the middle child, because now there's like 4.
5. Well, there's 5 by the end.
There's about to be 5 by the end of this movie, but there's 4 at the beginning of the movie and during the beginning of the show. She's the only girl though.
That's not a baby.
She's the second oldest child in the family, and
so she was the middle child.
Right, exactly. But her mom had her little sister Charlie. And I think when the show begins, her sister's like 2.
No, I think in the pilot she's like a baby. She's a couple months old.
You think a couple months?
Yeah, because she's little. They're like holding her and all that. Yeah. Remember, he almost drops her. It's the first time that she's going back.
Oh, yeah. He still was swaddling.
Yeah, so she's probably like 3 months or something.
Yeah,
she's supposed to be around that.
She was
age.
because her mom was going back to maternity leave.
From maternity leave.
In the pilot. So, you know, she's basically, the whole premise is like Teddy recording these video diaries for her little sister as her little sister grows up, because she won't actually be in the home by that point, because she's 15, I think.
Yeah, ish when it starts.
15-ish when it begins. So obviously she will be like, by the time the girl is 5, she's already going to be at the house. So she's just recording these little, you know, video diaries for her that are just like ways that she can like avoid things, or like ways she should handle things, and just like, you know, like an 8 simple rules.
Yeah,
it's literally like an 8 simple rules, but via video camera. And every time she ends the videos, it's like, well, good luck, Charlie, and then she, you know, that she ends the video series. So that's what the show is based around, and it's just about her and her family and like all the things that Charlie's gonna learn, essentially. So the movie then takes that, and it's set all around Christmas, of course, if you could tell by the title. But the family is going to go visit the mom's parents out in Palm Springs, California.
They're from Denver.
And yeah, they live in Denver, so the whole show is set in Denver, Colorado. So they're going to go visit her, you know, her mom's parents in California for the first time during Christmas, and her mom is weirdly, like, weepy about this. And they don't understand why. And she's like, the Christmas traditions, we won't be able to do them, and the stars, and you guys care about the stars. And all the kids are like, literally, no, we don't. Like, we don't care about the stars. But the star on the top of the tree. So they end up going to the airport. Everything is going fine until they get on the plane, and then the man is like, hey, if we're like overbooked, like on the airline, like, so if anybody wants to give up their seat, you can get a ticket to go anywhere else, like a flight voucher. So Charlie is like, Teddy is like, oh, I will definitely do that, because right before they had left, her friend had come over and was like, girl, we got to go to spring break, and we need to go to Florida to stay with my aunt on the beach. And her parents were like, well, we don't think you should be going on your own to Florida with just a friend, like, for spring break at this age. Like, we don't, allow that. And then she's like, well, I'm an adult, blah, blah, blah. They have a whole thing. And
then let me take care of the baby all the time.
Right. And which is a legitimate argument.
Which is fair.
It is a legitimate argument. And then her dad's like, well, if, you're so adult, how about you pay for it yourself? The problem is she needs to get these tickets by next week. So she's like, that's not going to work. So then she gets this chance on the flight, and she's like, oh, I'm going to take that. So then she gets off the flight, but then one of her parents obviously has to get off with her because she's 15. And they're like, we're not going to let you try and figure out how you're going to go cross country by yourself.
Yeah.
In like 2 days. And so her mom gets off with her, and she's like, don't worry, Mom, we'll just take the bus. They try to take the bus. That doesn't work because her mom gets really sick and is like literally vomiting for like a couple of hours. And the people are like, we will not let you back on this bus because that's just disgusting. She took up the bathroom.
I don't know if that's actually allowed.
I don't think you can do that, actually. I really
paid for a ticket, and there were chickens on the bus.
There were chickens
being allowed out, which I understand them being like, but there's chickens on this bus.
Right.
Like, how is this the problem?
And then the bus driver is
she's car sick. That's a thing that happens to people.
Right. And then also the mom had already gotten thrown out of the airport because she had asked for them, I think, to take a later flight. And then the woman's like, there's no seats left or something. And then she's like, what do you mean? It basically gets like an attitude. So they have to throw her out of the airport.
Apparently she hit her.
Yes, apparently it's inferred that she hit her. And then they try the bus route. They get like, I don't even know, a couple hours along the way there, but still in Colorado, I'm guessing. And then they get left on the side of the road by the bus, which again, I don't think you can do. Because it's like they leave them at a rest stop, but this rest stop, there's like nothing else around. So then they have to like, they manage to procure a car from the local like mechanic at this rest stop where he's the only person there. And it's like a Yugo, which
I guess like it's short for, it's supposed to be like, I assume that's supposed to be like Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
They're like, it's from a country that no longer exists.
Before Teddy was born.
Exactly, and it's only worth like $50.
So the mom literally buys it with $50.
Yeah.
And it only goes like 10 miles an hour. And they're in Colorado, so there's mountains and snow because it's Christmas. So it's like 2 days before Christmas. There's also a countdown going down this entire time.
Yeah.
So then they're like driving. Meanwhile, when they're like driving 10 miles an hour through the Colorado mountains, the Rockies, right?
Yeah.
Through the Rocky Mountains, the dad, Charlie, the two brothers, Gabe and PJ. PJ's the older one. Gabe is, the one that's younger than Teddy and older than Charlie. They all get to the grandparents' house. And the problem is that we learned early on is that the grandmother hates the father, which I'm like, at this point, you're 4 kids in, and like the eldest is like 17.
Like, it doesn't.
So
you have to have gotten, like, you don't have to get over it, but like, it shouldn't be an obstacle.
Like, it's literally visceral hate. Like, as soon as she picks him up, she's just like, you're useless.
Yeah, you're useless.
Essentially. So they go back to their quote-unquote condo, which was really a townhome, I think, or like a house, because it was huge.
Yeah.
To host all those people in Palm Springs. And then she basically is like, I don't like you because you can't parent your children. Like, that's essentially her biggest issue with the husband. And then he's like, please don't leave me alone with your grandmother, which is immediately what the children do. And then poor Charlie is running around because she's 3 and she's just knocking over everything. And the grandmother, who
refused to baby-proof the house.
She refused to baby-proof the house. So there's literally like like a Jesus in the manger figurines, and there's like stars and glass reindeer everywhere, and Charlie is knocking everything over,
she's like, ooh,
because it just looks like an obstacle course to her. So then she ends up locking the husband in this room, and she's like, you can't come out. I'm taking care of Charlie. So he's just like, all right, I resign myself to my fate at this point. Back to Charlie and her mother. They're still winding their way through the Rocky Mountains.
The car
and they
breaks
finally
down.
they finally like get somewhere. The car breaks down and they have to walk. They have to walk to, I think, like the nearest restaurant or rest stop again.
After somebody comes and like scoops up the car.
Right, because the Yugo has broken
falls
down.
apart.
And he's literally like, I'm surprised this lasted this long. Even this far. And so they have to like walk somewhere else to, I think, a restaurant this time. And they end up like hitchhiking with these two older people
that they met
in this like huge RV type thing. Because
they're
like,
van. Was it an RV?
It was just a really large van.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was like a really large van. But it also had like, no, it was a van. It was a van because it didn't have like actual seating and stuff. But yeah, so they get in this like thing with them. They find out they're actually like alien abduction survivors allegedly, and that's like the big convention. Because they're just trying to get to Las Vegas so that they can hopefully get a flight out or like rent a car and just drive to California from Vegas because it's so close. And they get there. And they realize, they get in there and they realize that they're like, survivors who now think that her and her mother are also alien abduction survivors
because her mom gets sick.
She keeps getting sick and throwing up and vomiting, and just being like generally annoyed this entire trip. And then at that point she tells Teddy, oh, I'm pregnant. That's why I've been like this entire time. And I was going to tell everybody at Christmas, but, obviously I need to tell you now because you think I'm insane, because she's been acting insane.
Yeah. And Teddy's very upset about that. She's like, why didn't you tell me before? Which is like, at first it doesn't seem obvious, but like, we'll get into this later, but it does seem like she might be the caretaker of her little sister in many ways, so I guess I understand
the annoyance.
Her to be like, you're really having another one?
Right.
Like, that's what you're gonna do right now.
So they finally get into Vegas. The couple like drop them off. And they're like, okay, like, let's figure out, like,
no, they get out and they walk, don't they?
No, they drop them off in Vegas. They drop them off in the Strip. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's when Teddy is like, you don't do anything that I like, because I think her mom says, they get into a fight. Her and her mom get into a fight, and they go separate ways in Las Vegas, where neither of them have, like, as far as we know, have, like, previously ever been. But Teddy walks off alone. And, of course, her mom is just basically following her because she's like, I'm not going to leave my child wandering along the Las Vegas Strip by herself.
My 16-year-old daughter.
Like, that doesn't make any sense.
No.
And they end up having to bond by street busking. and also the street busking happens not because they need the money. No. It happens because Teddy is like, oh, we need to, I think she's hungry, and like at that point she's fighting with her mom, so she's like, I need to earn my supper. So she just starts singing Jingle Bells, and this man comes and gives her money. And then she tries to sing, or then her mom joins in, I think, and then he takes the money back, which is the greatest scene in the entire film.
It's my favorite part of the movie.
It's literally the greatest scene in the entire film.
Watching him take that money out that hat.
And then they join together. They end up like, coming together and doing this kind of like comedy singing type of duo routine that everybody really likes, and they give them money.
But it's also them actually hashing out this fight that they're having.
Yeah, it's literally like there's a lot of like
really physical
pushing. And like,
in a way that made me slightly
it made me very uncomfortable. Like it was like a passive-aggressive interpretive dance.
Yeah.
But yes, and then the mom, after this happened, she calls the dad, and she's just like, we're in Vegas, but like the rental car place was closed. All they had was a rental bike place, and they're like, we can't bike to Palm Springs from Vegas in like time for Christmas. So then the dad's like, stay there, I will pick you up. So then him and the boys set out, because the boys are like, we can't stay with grandma and grandpa anymore, because one of them got grandpa hooked on like video games, and then the other one got horribly sunburnt and has to like basically have calamine lotion all over him to like make himself feel like a human. And so they all take off like in their grandparents' like T-Bird Mustang
to go get their
they end up getting sidetracked in like the
okay, go on.
In the video game creator, like I guess that the middle son or the youngest son Gabe likes so much. He apparently has this really big like paintball like the game like actual game that happens where he sets it up like the video game that he likes so much
in the hills of,
but it's like only for his like employees and I guess like super enthusiasts. They managed to stumble into it across the Mojave Desert somehow, and then they end up having to fight their way out. And then he ends up winning the stone, the Gabe son, and he meets the creator, and it's like this whole moment, yada, yada, yada. But all I know is they're still not in Vegas. So Teddy and her mom at this point have made it to a buffet. and also, before getting into this buffet, this homeless girl steals their luggage.
But we don't know that it's the homeless girl who stole it.
We just know this girl steals their luggage.
We just know that the luggage is gone.
Yes, their luggage
comes
gets
up,
stolen.
asks for money. I can't remember. I assume they give it to her.
Yeah, no, the mom gives her the money. And then she's like, "Well, just watch the bags, Teddy." And then Teddy looks around, the bags are gone.
Yeah, but they get to this buffet,
and that's part of what causes the fight.
Yeah, but they get to this buffet, and then the girl shows up.
They see her eating at the buffet.
Yeah,
and with their luggage right next to her, wearing Teddy's shirt.
Exactly, they're like, "Oh, the homeless girl stole our
Right,
luggage."
right. So they end up talking to her, and Teddy's mom explains it's being a mom and blah blah blah, and then in an act of character growth, Teddy ends up giving the girl her flight voucher because the girl ends up making up with her mom because we find out the whole thing is that she thought her mom had kicked her out because she went to a festival without her mother's permission.
She told her don't come back.
But she did, yeah, but obviously
and she thought that she meant that,
which is wild. But yes, so then Teddy's like, "Here, you can have my flight voucher. It'll take you anywhere you need to go," because the girl was like, "I don't have enough money to buy a flight home." So then Teddy gives that over to her, and then her mom's like, "Oh, that's so sweet of you, blah, 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 character growth." And finally, after all of that, the father and the boys end up, I think, sorry. They
end up on the bike.
Teddy and her mom bike to some random restaurant. Somewhere in the Mojave Desert, they get halfway there, and then the father and the sons meet them there all together, and then the grandparents also come around with Charlie. So then it basically ends, and they're all at the restaurant, and they turn on the Christmas lights, and then the mom's like, "I'm pregnant again," and then everybody's like, "Yay, a fifth child."
I really don't know if that would be the reaction that she would receive, but go ahead.
But yeah, and that's basically how.
And Charlie gets to put the star on the Christmas tree at the restaurant,
right?
Because someone brought the star
mom gets
with them.
the Christmas traditions. The grandma.
The grandma brought the star with her to the restaurant,
right? So now everybody's in the Mojave Desert at this random ass restaurant, causing commotions for these people who are too tired because it's Christmas Day.
Actually.
But yes, so that's basically Good Luck Charlie. It's Christmas.
But the way it ends, recap. They end up back on a plane going home.
Yeah.
And again, it's overbooked, and Charlie and Teddy is like, "Oh, I'll get off." And the mom sort of looks at the dad.
And she's like, "It's your turn.
You gotta go with her. I'm not doing this again."
Right.
And that's
the end
of the film, I believe.
Yeah. So,
There's some bloopers after, but
yeah, there are some bloopers. They did a blooper reel, which is funny. I haven't seen one of those in a minute.
Yeah, that was pleasant. Those are always nice.
Yeah,
I think.
So I think some of the things to get into the review. Something that was interesting is obviously you see the mother-daughter relationship between Teddy and her mom.
Yeah.
And you just have an idea of how that, even if you haven't watched a lot of the show, you get an idea of okay, so this seems to be kind of a situation where Teddy is essentially raising Charlie.
Yeah,
I resents her mother for it.
Yeah, I got the vibe that it's, and we talked about this. It reminded me a lot of, and this is again having not watched the TV show, so this is just what I'm picking up on from the pilot and this movie. I get the sense from it that there's a level to it where it sort of reminded me of this TV show Raising Hope that I know people. I didn't watch it extensively, but I know people really liked it.
Kelly Ripa was on that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, she played the.
She played the sister.
No, she played the.
Because wasn't it two sisters?
No. This
I'm thinking of Kelly and something. Sorry.
No, yeah, I'm not. Actually, that's not true. That was not Keller, but it's the guy who like someone leaves like his baby on his doorstep or something like that, and he has to raise it, but he has his parents had him young, and like so now he has this baby that like the mother's not involved at all, and it's like this generational situation of like his parents who weren't great parents to him because like they were young when they had him, like helping him raise this kid that he's like obviously not too young to have, but like isn't prepared to have,
isn't ready for it.
And it's like that whole it's sort of
it's
like
a
that
cycle,
but it for some reason this gave me those vibes, and I get this feeling from this show that it's a situation where like, perhaps like Amy and Bob.
Yeah, Amy and Bob.
Like perhaps like they seem to be like the high school sweetheart types.
Yeah.
Kind of situation, and that they maybe had their kids young. that sort of first batch of children, they had them, or the first two at least, because I guess Gabe is also a few years younger. He's
which is
like
also
11.
Interesting is that like it's not like they're all, as you can tell, it's like they did them in batches, but like weird, like not weird batches, but just like it clearly seemed like it was planned for some of them, but not all of them. And yeah, so I think that was just the thing, is it was like,
or I mean, I get the feeling
the first two one after the other.
Yeah, they're like, and which strikes me as something of like that seems like something irresponsible. 21 to 24.
Yeah.
So then you chill, and then you have like
until
another.
They were in elementary school.
Yeah, then like maybe Gabe was a choice, but probably not. Probably an accident. And then you were like really careful for a while, and you weren't.
And then you had Charlie.
And that's why you had Charlie, and then you had another one out. Like, you know, it seems like that sort of situation of like, like not necessarily being very careful, and that's how we ended up with 5 children, like so wildly spaced apart. Not wildly, because this is something that happens in families, but like it's just, and I get this idea, like it feels in those sort of situations, it's kind of like you have like sort of 2 routes that kids usually end up going, I think. Not all, like, again, this is very reductive.
Yeah, this is not, we know it's not a binary.
Yeah, but, you know, I'm just sort of breaking it down, like, the general, or at least the way it's usually portrayed in these types of shows, situations.
Right.
And it's like, you either have, especially with the girls, a thing where it's like, that girl, it's going to continue to follow cycles, something like in Raising Hope, where, like, that son does the same thing, you know? Like, it is going to follow the cycle of, like, that child is going to do the same thing that their parents did, kind of situation, or you're gonna have a kid who's deeply responsible because of what they've witnessed happen,
and they don't want to repeat the same
mistakes. And it seems like Teddy falls into that latter category.
Yeah,
it seems like that's sort of the dynamic that is playing underneath the surface of all this. Again, this is very just like speculation, watching the film, watching the pilot,
right?
But in that, so, like, understand, like, so their mother-daughter relationship, it seems, is one that is much more, like, it's not friendship, per se.
Yeah.
But it is one in which, like, at moments you're probably wondering who is parenting whom.
Yeah.
At certain times, you know, like, who is caretaking for the other family members, like, how this is playing out, like, these responsibilities are sort of more shared than one might typically expect in the, like, usual nuclear family.
Mm-hmm.
But it is because of, you know, this balancing act that is happening with, like, you know, the fact that, like, maybe, like, parents did end up growing up with their kids in a certain way.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like, and I feel like this also tends to happen specifically with elder girls, like you were saying, where if you are, especially if you're the eldest or like the oldest child and you're the girl, but then also if you're just the oldest girl, you get a lot of the caretaking and the emotional labor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an only child, but I've noticed, and I feel like that's a very common trend that I've heard from people that are in that position, where it's like you are the one that has to deal with everything. Yeah, and you become your second mother.
Older you become the second mother. But also, I think the older you get, the more you, like, the older, because I'm the older girl child, the more you become your mother's sort of confidant. Again, like, I think that this is common. I don't think it's always this is the case, but it's fairly common, I think. You become your mother's sort of confidant. Or you become, you know what I mean? Like, you're the one that she can talk to before she can talk to the other kids about various things. So that sort of relationship, and then the closer in age you are, the more sort of murky that those waters become.
Right.
Especially from when that starts. You know, like someone with me, like my mom had me when she was a little bit older, so, you know, maybe it really started picking up when I was, you know, like 15, 16, or like after I went away to college and all of that. But I can imagine if my mom had me when she was younger, that it could have started when the kid was like, you know, 11, 12.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it just sort of changes that dynamic a little bit.
Yeah.
And I definitely get hints of that here. And I think what's interesting in that is considering the idea of, like, that's happening. We're watching that play out, but that's happening on this backdrop of this older sister making these videos for her younger sister. So you kind of have this sort of, like, generational, again, like another generational situation of, like, these women.
Right.
All in this family who are, like, literally helping each other grow, but as they are also growing. Which is, regardless of how I feel about, like, you know, what I've seen of it itself in terms of, like, its entertainment value for me, I do think that is an interesting and not common thing to be tackling and to be sort of just exposing and referencing in children's television. It's just not, it definitely isn't something that I can, like, I don't have something to compare it to from what was on when we were watching Disney Channel.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't even, even to the fact that, like, talking about that, I don't even remember when we were growing up, like, a pregnant mom being really much of a thing in a lot of the kids' programming.
They would do it in the way of, like, you would get a lot of new baby and the kid feeling put out. Isn't that the whole problem, like Oliver and Company? Or All Dogs Will Have One of them. The one with Easy Street.
The one with Easy Street.
Or it's like his stepmom's having a baby and he's like, it's gonna replace me in your heart.
Yeah, and I think it's like we never get, I don't know, it's like this does feel like an interesting vantage point to view a pregnancy to a degree, because I feel like, yes, a lot of the stuff that we saw when we were growing up was like either from the baby, like we would have gotten it from Charlie's perspective.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you had like Rugrats or whatever. But like it's like you didn't get that a lot in the live action ones.
Yeah.
From what I can remember, or that I can think of off the top of my head. So I do think that's at least, you know, an interesting thing, and like, you know, I know they end up introducing the son who's named Toby, like, the next season. And I think they even, I don't know if they really did, like, a whole pregnancy thing throughout the rest of it.
I would assume that
but they definitely did
then.
Yeah, that's what I would assume, but again, I'm not
watching a mother, like watching her actually go through pregnancy, having a young child, having that family,
and
like,
having
stepping
older
up,
children.
stepping up to help. But obviously, it's really Teddy stepping up to help,
right? Because PJ wasn't doing it, even though PJ is the oldest.
PJ's not.
PJ was not.
He's just not capable.
He's just not that child. But yeah, I do think there is a lot of emotional labor placed on the eldest daughter, and Teddy was definitely feeling it.
Yeah,
and that's why she's so visibly annoyed when her mother says I'm pregnant, because she's just like she literally looks like she wants to be like, do you know what an IUD is?
Like, understand?
Like, can you control? You can control that.
And she's upset that she's like, why didn't you tell me? And in that way of like, you know, I'm gonna be raising this baby, right?
Because Charlie is basically my child.
Like, I look after Charlie while you're at work. Yes, providing for us, but you're a nurse. You gotta be there at night, like,
right?
You gotta do
and Dad's an exterminator,
yeah,
and also generally hapless. Like he's
yeah, he really was in the whole pilot.
He drops the baby in the pilot.
There's a thing of like, but he's dropped all of them.
Yes,
like multiple times. It's like, all right, well, yeah, don't leave him with the kids, obviously. But I do think, what I do like about this is that it does seem to show that, like, or it emphasizes this idea that, you know, even with like dysfunction, because let's be real, it's a dysfunction in this family. Even with dysfunction, that doesn't negate true deep love.
Right.
Dysfunction does not mean broken.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, just because it doesn't follow the typical fashion of how things were doesn't mean it's a broken home, because it is by no means anything of that nature. You know? And I think it was like we looked up in like Teddy ends up going to Yale.
Yeah,
And it's just, you know, it's situation, this idea of like good luck Charlie, like, yeah, you got this like crazy family, so good luck,
literally.
But at the same time, they're taking the care to say that to you every week, every day, you know,
right?
Like, good luck. And so, like, you know, I come from my family's fucking batshit. They really are. If y'all are listening, it's just a fact. Like, there's nothing I can do to change that. But I know that you guys deeply love me,
right?
You know, and I think that is something that, when we see tales about families that are a little off or a little bit
kooky.
Yeah, just a little bit out of the norm, and especially when it's suggesting situations of, you know, not starting out from the most prepared place.
Right.
There's always I feel like there tends to be an undercurrent of like just wrong, like things are gonna go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna go wrong to the point where like kids' lives are gonna be messed up. And I like that this doesn't seem to do that. It shows that it's going to be hard, and there's going to be emotional turmoil for sure. There's going to be actual literal turmoil, a bit of chaos in the house, and like all of that. But everyone at the end of the day, more often than not, does actually grow and love and like hold each other up and becomes better and stronger because of the fact that they have to like overcome something to do that. So I appreciate that is in this. That being said, though,
yeah,
this was another labor of love for y'all. It really was.
It was, you know, I think it was just. I'll preface it by saying more that it was not of our. It was like after our generation.
We don't have an emotional connection to these characters.
But I know that
show.
A lot of people that like the show. Like, the show was very popular, and I think...
and I understand why.
Was a thing at its time. We actually enjoyed the pilot.
We did. It's like... The pilot was cute. Scott's little laughs, like...
Yeah, the pilot was cute.
It could, you know, maybe, you know, I'll be bored one day, and, you know, because I'm watching various Disney channels, like, I got Disney Plus, so, hey, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll, like, give it a whirl.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to watch, like, Wizards of Waverly Place and things of that nature first that I missed out on, but... Yeah, you know, it's something I wouldn't mind watching, but I wouldn't rewatch this film.
Yeah, I think overall, we wouldn't really, like, recommend this film unless you were a Good Luck Charlie, like, fan. Like,
Stan.
No, I would say if you enjoyed the show, you probably, like, you already know what happened in the movie because you watched the show. But, like, you know, if you want to rewatch it, you probably would enjoy it. But I do think there's, you know, you mentioned even, like, a lot of it was very, like, referential to earlier times.
Yeah.
And to earlier, like, not even, like, super early films. Like, I'm not talking about from the 20s. I mean, like, from, like, the early 2000s.
Yeah, I had this feel like it's... So I don't know the exact genre for this, but I put it in this idea of like this hijink/road trip genre.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Where everything just starts going wrong.
Yeah, and it reminded me of films like, alright, so I'm not going to remember the name of the Kenan and Kel film.
It was like a special.
It was a special, like around Halloween, I think.
Yeah.
And they're like they're going to like a mall in DC or something of that nature. They're doing like a cross-country trip, and hijinks ensue and they get separated from the family, Kenan and Kel. Like, it reminded me of sort of like Rat Race and Dude, Where's My Car?
Mm-hmm.
And just like all these films where it's like the idea of like, alright, you're on a basic quest and like things just keep happening.
Right.
As you're trying to get from point A to point B, and they're all a little bit absurd, and they're ridiculous. And I will say, like, those are films that now I watch Dude, Where's My Car? And I'm like, well, this is obviously not a quality film, but I still love it in the way of like I watched it for the first time when I was a kid, and I ate it up. I was like, this is so funny. So I can see how this idea is like, they were like, this is probably going to be hilarious for kids. And I can imagine that children sit down and watch this and think it was
great. Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Right.
But like, the things with like those, and there's a slight. I feel like there was a nod to that in this. Like it was intentional what they were doing, and it was actively a nod to like that type of movie, that genre. And but the problem is that like that's not a genre I think that has great. There's an argument to be made that like I think that like Big Lebowski sort of started it. Mm-hmm. And it's not quite a road trip, it's like sort of hiding and then a little bit absurd, and it's a quest film, but it's not quite the same as this. But I think that after Big Lebowski and sort of the success of that sort of absurdist, situational, sequential humor, that concept was taken, and you've got a lot of the. I haven't necessarily seen these, so I'm just referencing a larger genre of like stoner / like light comedy films, but you know, like that, like Wayne's World, Half Baked, like ends up Dude, Where's My Car, like that genre of film, that I know people are fond of, even though they recognize that it's not actually a great film. So I think that is what happens here, is that you have one of those films, and so it's not like we're not connected to the humor, we're not connected to the characters. Yeah. It's, it's built to be something that is a tag on to something that already exists. So, like, for us, we're just watching it as a film at face value. And, like, most other films in that category, it's just not good. It's just not good. Fundamentally not
It's
good.
also that it's, like, a Christmas... heralded as titled as a Christmas movie, but it actually has, like, very little actual to do with Christmas itself. Like, it's very much, like, other than the fact that it's, like, everybody has Christmas decorations up, and, like, the mom won't stop mentioning a star, it's very, like, it's very inconsequential to the plot really of the film. Like, I'm like, this really could have just been, like, a spring break road trip film or something, and it would have been the same thing.
And even if you want to argue that, like, oh, it's a family coming together and, like, love and all that stuff, it's like, all right, but you can do that at any holiday.
Yeah.
If you want to, you could do that at not a holiday, and it might even be more impactful because it's not surrounded, like,
with all of
the holiday-ness. Like, the holiday doesn't necessitate it. It is something that happens organically. So, it just wasn't, there was a certain point, sort of halfway through the movie, where I was really contemplating why it was on my screen. In a real deep way.
Also, the whole paint gun part of it was...
yeah, I don't...
because there was... It's like when they realize that they've been basically, like, faux kidnapped to be part of this, like, game because the people think that they're players, and that's why they made this wrong turn down the road, when really it was just PJ misreading Google Maps.
He really does. He forces
He's like, it's gonna get us there 30 minutes quicker to Vegas.
It's like, but what difference?
And then they just won't let them go. So they, like, tie them up to these chairs and blah, blah, and they're like, you're from the other team, blah, blah, blah. They're like, we have to fight our way out, guys. So then the three of them, they, like, open up the, like, nearest cabinet, and there are 3 huge, like,
paintball. It's paintball guns, but they still
look like actual.
In this age and era, like, watching
it back, it's
watching
like,
these 3
white men.
3 white men. Like, let's be honest about it. Watching these 3 white men in the mountains or desert, whatever.
In the desert, yeah.
Desert mountains. Gleefully sort of grab these big ass. I don't care if it's shooting paint. It looks like they
literally look like
big gun. Grab them and, like, go out. Like, all right, y'all, let's go.
We've got to shoot our way out. I didn't have
that accent.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing an accent. I was just saying, all right, y'all, let's go, because that's how I talk. But, like,
we've got to shoot our way out.
Exactly. I was like, I immediately recoiled.
Yeah.
I was like, that is not an image that inspires anything but a very visceral fear in me.
But again, it's like, we also do know that that's very much due to this year.
Yeah, that's not...
like, I'm sure if we had watched that, like, last year, it wouldn't have given me that. It might have still been, or like, maybe. Guns.
But it was still, this guns. Is still pre, like...
But 2011 was a...
Yeah, and it's pre, like, I don't think we'd had our first, sort of, like, not to go down this path, but, like, elementary school shooting and things of that nature.
Well, we'd had school shootings.
No, we'd had school shootings.
It had not happened to the point.
But the point of an outsider coming and with very small children. Like, we hadn't had that situation yet.
We hadn't had... BLM was not yet created.
Yeah. It was just in its early stages.
2011?
Yeah.
Because Trayvon wasn't until...
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It was created in reaction to Trayvon.
I suppose. Alright, then scrap
like, not saying people were doing the work.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a
BLM as a term and as like a thing.
The protests didn't look the way that they look now, or that they even looked a year after this came out.
We were in a different America. I think that's really what it is. We were in a different America, and things were different, so this would not trigger said reactions.
Yeah,
but
at
it's like
the time it
watching
wasn't. And paintball was a thing when we were young. Yeah. Like, that was a huge thing.
Yeah, no, people love paintball. Yeah. I played once. I did it once. I was like, never again. That stuff hurts.
I'm a laser tag girl myself, personally.
No, that's better. It's much better. But yeah, so it's just, like that kind of that part of it.
Kind of stuff that didn't age.
That did not age well
at all.
And then I think my overall question was just like, how expensive was this trip? Because please keep in mind,
they really do.
Her and her mom got a bus, then bought a car.
Well, the car was $50.
The car was $50, but then they had to get a car. Whatchamacallit? They had to buy these people's breakfast to basically try to bribe them to take them hitchhiking. But then the people are like, you didn't have to do all that. Like,
and the mom also eats mad food.
Which I think they were trying to be like is equated to pregnancy, and I was like, I don't think that's not.
Nobody's eating like that.
Most people are too nauseous to eat that
that's
much.
Not. If she's throwing up that much, she would never order that much.
Like when I tell you, like it's not a situation of like where she ordered like an extra side of fries. Like old girl literally orders half of the breakfast menu.
She said, She said pancakes. She said, you want silver dollar or regular? She said
both.
Okay.
She's like, you want toast? She's like, all types. Every type of toast that you have. Multiple versions of it. Like, it is literally like the entire table.
Parks and Rec when Ron is like, bring me all the eggs and bacon.
Yes.
And he's like, you heard bring a lot of eggs and bacon. I meant bring me all the eggs and bacon.
That is literally what happens.
That's the scenario.
That's literally what happens with her mom. So... yeah, I think it's like they do that. Then they have to do a bike rental. Then they have to buy their buffet stuff. Like they buy their dinners, and like it's just like the cost of this trip was just adding up when you already know
she lost the whole plane ticket. There was a plane ticket that was never used.
Minimum, they spent like over $1,500 to buy that many tickets for that many children and them for Christmas. To California.
And they're not balling. He's an exterminator. She's a nurse.
Like they're doing well.
They're fine.
But 4 kids, 4
with
plane
a
tickets.
5th on the way.
Yeah, 4 plane tickets. That's not cheap. Sorry, I'm not even including them. Yeah, I'm including 6 plane tickets to California.
Maybe they didn't have to pay for the baby.
2 days before. Okay, so let's say 5. You had to buy 5 plane tickets from Denver to California. That we're going 2 days before Christmas. I know that cost you money.
Yeah, that was not cheap.
So I'm like, so you probably already lost like, at least from just the 2 of them not being able to go.
Maybe 1,000. Let's say 1,000.
Let's say you lost 1,000 there.
Or no, the 2 of them not being able to go. Let's say you lost like 500.
Yeah, so you probably lost 500 there. That's money down the drain. Then you have this bus ticket, which probably cost you both. From Denver, maybe let's say $45.
You think?
For both of them.
An 18-hour drive?
Well, because you could get like a mega bus.
But that wasn't a mega bus. It was a luxury,
Oh yeah, it was a luxury car coach. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe 100
mega bus
each. Let's say
girl, I mean, maybe I don't know. The buses to DC
like
are like from New York are like 35, and that's really going, and that's a 5-hour drive. So if you want 18 hours through mountains, I would think we're talking a solid hundo at bare minimum per ticket.
Okay, so let's say
I would think
100 each for this luxury car coach, which did not look that luxury to me.
It was a regular coach.
Just gonna say that. But yeah, so for that, and then you have to get the $50 Yugo, and then I think then we had the breakfast, then we had the Las Vegas buffet. And then so it's just like
this added up.
It just started adding up a lot.
And then you got to Vegas and you didn't immediately just go, like, get on a plane. Or, like, just go, like, you did all these other things.
Because that was our other thing, is I was like, I don't know, because they got there in the day.
Yeah, and they were like, oh, let's go.
You really could have just got a cab.
It's like, yeah, why
to take you to the Las Vegas airport and fly to Palm Springs. Yeah, I guarantee you something would have gone out either that night or the morning.
Or even that, like, even if that wasn't the case, you could get a cab to the Las Vegas airport and rent a car. Like, the whole bike scenario didn't have to happen.
Oh, yeah, they had to pay for the bike rentals.
How you gonna bring the bike back? It's a rental. Did you buy the bike?
Again, this trip was this was like my whole time I was just over there calculating the amount of money that they were spending to do all of this, because this was now like a 2 to 3 day affair, and keep in mind everybody's eating too.
And you might as well have just bought homegirl's plane ticket to Florida.
Yeah,
and called it a day.
Like I was like, this was just so.
When she was getting ready to get off the plane, you should have been like, sit the hell down.
We'll buy your freaking plane ticket. Like, stop it.
No, like call it a day.
Yeah. So I guess overall, Nina, would you show this to your babies? The babies?
No.
Yeah.
Not independently of itself. My kids watch Good Luck Charlie and they enjoy it, and they decide to watch this. They can go ahead. I'm not sitting through it. I'm not doing that ever again. There's no reason to. And yeah, that's just.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna stop them from watching. There's nothing. Although again, that gun moment really did.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. If they don't ever see that, I would be happier. I think, generally speaking. But there's nothing, I'm not going to stop them from watching it. Go ahead. But it's going to have nothing to do with it.
It's not like it has bad values or anything.
Yeah.
It's literally just like.
And it's also not a holiday. It's just not really a holiday film. There's no reason to watch it.
For Christmas.
At all.
No. You would watch it any time of the year. It's like, okay. But yeah, no, I agree. I think it's unless they ask for it, I doubt it. I wouldn't really bother. And then I also wouldn't, again, unless you are a Good Luck Charlie fan, I would not say watch this.
Yeah, it's not there's no recommendation coming from this.
Yeah, either you're a Good Luck Charlie fan or a Bridgit Mendler fan, then I wouldn't bother. She's the main girl. She plays Teddy. But yeah, so I think with that, we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Critics Kingdom. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify and SoundCloud so you can stay up to date, as well as interacting and letting us know what you guys think on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Critics Kingdom and on Instagram at The Critics Kingdom. We're excited to talk to you again next week.